Welcome, and happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. I'm your host, Q, coming to you from Bitcoin Magazine HQ in Nashville, and I am joined by my co-host, P. How goes it, P?
As always, it goes fantastically. We got some stuff to talk about. Let's dive in.
We do indeed. And just a reminder, today we are going to have a special premiere right after this episode of Bitcoin Magazine Live. We will have an episode of Bitcoiner's Traveler's Guide. We're going to play the trailer in just a moment. And then, of course, we're going to have some news and notes, and we got some fun stories. So let's play the trailer, and then let's get into it.
This is from our very own Pleb Music we had on yesterday. It's a new show we're doing through Bitcoin Magazine Studios. It's pretty dope. Check it out.
Take you on a journey and show you how real this internet money is. I'll be taking you to various cities around the globe to report on what's going on with Bitcoin. My first stop will be in Amsterdam. I'm going to try to survive for 48 hours solely on Bitcoin. There will be no euros, no dollars, or no other currency used for transactions besides Bitcoin.
I know, me too. It's dropping tomorrow, but it's dropping today in 26 minutes on the Bitcoin Magazine YouTube channel. Be there, or your children and their children and their children will hate you forever. That's just how it works.
These are the laws of the land. But let's dive into news and notes. So, Coinbase and SEC, that's heating up. You got OpenSea announcing a new stolen item policy. That's heating up. Salman Rushdie was attacked in New York, and Russia and Ukraine have the most amount of crypto by share of population. But those aren't what we're going to talk about today. Let's kick it off with Swan and Casa. These are two providers of Bitcoin that have let customers know that there has been a data breach. My 2 cents right here. If you use these services, please go and make sure your data is safe, secure. Change passwords if you need to. Do whatever you need to do, but take this seriously.
Yeah, and to be clear, this is a data breach that has affected many companies. I believe it's the email service provider Klaviyo, and if you run a business, basically, very few businesses are able to manage all of their own email lists. People use what's the big one? MailChimp, things like that. So this is a system like that creates a layer of centralization, which in today's age is very difficult to get around. And so this third-party service was hacked, and so everyone that was using them, or a huge number of the companies that were using them, and there's hundreds, had this issue. And so it is not focused specifically on Swan or Casa, but they used that service, and so they've been affected by it. But many other companies as well that you probably use have been affected by this, which is just yet another example of some of the issues with centralization. As we talk about a lot on this show, it creates a honeypot where people can sort of breach one system and then have access to all this information. So make sure you're tracking on that stuff. Change passwords as usual. Use a password manager, 2-factor authentication, all that jazz, because it's a constant threat in the modern age.
Yeah. To highlight, Twilio was the largest company that I was able to figure out, or at least find, was involved in this hack. So Twilio users as well, you're sort of in the same boat as Swan and Casa. So should we pop on over to the next story? So this is a little bit older, from earlier in the week, but to be quite honest, P and I couldn't actually agree on how this should pan out. So we decided we'll continue the conversation live in front of all of you. At this point, if you've been on Twitter, you've seen the video of the Lebanese man who held a bank hostage. He walked into a bank, poured gasoline on himself, and held all the tellers hostage, saying, "I want my money. Give me my money." It's reported that he had about $210,000 in the bank. The reports coming out saying that he had family members in the hospital and was trying to pay off medical bills. Based on a BBC article, it seems as though a negotiator negotiated a deal with him to walk out of the bank with about $35,000 US. As of right now, there are no plans, or officials have not yet said whether the man will face charges or not. So he is free right now. Many in Lebanon are calling him a hero, as Lebanon's banking system has gone far too aggressive and is putting limits on how much their citizens can actually withdraw.
Yeah, and the thing that's very interesting to me is that this is being portrayed in Western media, or at least the stories that I have seen, specifically on the BBC, as he's being portrayed as a hero. So the BBC headline is "Lebanon man hailed hero for holding Beirut bank hostage over savings," and that is. It's interesting that they are not portraying him as like a demon and trying to vilify this behavior, because it seems like it would understandably incentivize other people to take similar actions. And so that's the part of the story that I find the most fascinating. I empathize so strongly with him. It's totally bullshit. And these kinds of stories are so easy to kind of like push off as like, oh, that's some other random third world country. And we need to be thinking about it from the perspective of, this could happen. This will happen, in my opinion, more and more, and it will start to happen in countries that we think of as being more secure from a financial perspective. So, what do you think, Hugh?
I mean, you said it so perfectly. Like, this is in America. You are one email away from Chase or Bank of America or Wells Fargo or whoever you do hold an account with, emailing you and saying something to the tune of, you can only withdraw $500 a day now, or you can only withdraw $5,000 a day, or whatever arbitrary number or limitation that they want to put on the money that you have gone out to earn and make, which is why we Bitcoin. This is the exact scenario why you should be your own bank. I think the very interesting thing here is the fact that the ground swelling support that this man has received. And I think Lebanese officials are looking at this situation and saying to themselves, if we lock this guy up, there could be an uprising of hundreds more of people exactly like him doing this. Not just if we let him go, people thinking, oh, well, if I do it, I'll get away with it. But also on the other side of just pissing a lot of, let me tell you, man, when you piss off a lot of brown people who don't agree with you, they take to the streets. They take to the fucking streets. All right. So that is well within the realm of possibility here. I'm going to keep a very close eye to see how Lebanon really responds to this. What could be inspiring and truly like the 1% of 1% chance, like smallest odds here, is the Lebanese officials hear this man's complaint and then say to the banks, enough with this, like increase the limits. Like, that's not going to happen, but that would be the best case scenario out of this.
I mean, it could happen if they, as you said, if they fear, by the way, I know you're joking, but this is not just something that affects brown people. Everyone in the world, like, people think of their savings as being secure and something that they can have when they need access to it. And we somehow transitioned. I mean, it makes sense because we are moving closer and closer to being a cashless society, which is not a good thing, in my opinion. But people expect to be able to take their money out, and when they can't, bad shit happens. And so I think the only way that they would tell the banks to increase their limits is if, again, as you said, they were afraid of the negative repercussions of not doing so, which they very well may be.
We've said that old saying of you're 3 meals away from a revolution. Well, you're one email from your bank away from a revolution too now, apparently.
I mean, there's a big difference between a single man going in with a gun and everyone taking to the streets, but
you're telling
much.
me if Wells Fargo sent an email to all clients here in America, or even I'll play it like this. Wells Fargo sent an email just to people who bank with them in the state of Texas or the state of Florida or the state of California even. You really don't think people will be up in arms saying like, dude, I need to spend $5,000 a day. Like, you can't limit my withdrawals. You can't limit my transactions. My business is going to fail as a result.
But didn't this kind of thing happen actually during COVID? Wasn't there a period where it was like you can only take so much cash out of your bank? It wasn't at a federal or state level, but weren't there certain banks that were like they only allowed you to withdraw a certain amount because of the shortages in physical cash? I could be making that up. We'd have to go check.
I think so. I feel like that's like such a crazy thing to happen that like no one would have forgiven and forgotten that.
So there's also an important distinction here. Maybe you know the answer to this. Did the bank say to him, you cannot withdraw this money in any form? Or was it, you cannot have it as cash? I'm assuming it was in any form.
There was a limit to how much he could withdraw. That was the jurisdictional law in place in Lebanon. They've essentially limited how much you can withdraw from a bank account. And I see
whether
Phil,
digitally or in physical
eh,
currency, right?
totally.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
my
Got it.
understanding is he's trying to do it into physical currency. And I want to bring up something that Phil C said, like, no bank is going to let you withdraw $210,000. You're
Exactly.
absolutely right, but he wasn't trying to withdraw $210,000. He was trying to withdraw enough to what him and his family claim is to pay for his father's medical bills and a couple other family members who were in the hospital. So, not even trying to withdraw the whole amount, but ultimately, who are you and I to tell anyone what they can or can't do with their money? If you want to
Absolutely
withdraw,
no one.
if you want to withdraw almost $250,000 from your bank account and go put it on black, honestly, man, I really hope it hits for your sake.
Yeah, I mean, again, as you're just saying, you can't do that today in this country. You go to now, supposedly you can if you like go in and you give them enough notice because they don't, keep that much cash and all that stuff. But I mean, in the U.S. right now, if you go into a bank, pants on or off, doesn't matter, and demand to take out, 25K, they're going to be like, well, what are you doing with this? And if you try to say like, well, look, it's my money, I do what I want, you're going to have some uncomfortable questions, and it's insane that they are able to do that. So
Shall we go to the next story?
let's do it. Now, wait, I do want to say, now I want someone to actually try that in the United States, not the holding anybody hostage thing. I'm talking about like going into a bank and just being like, yo, I want to take out 50K, and then documenting exactly what happens and how those conversations happen. Somebody must have done that. If you know of a situation like this, somebody documenting their experience, put it in the chat. I want to.
You were not a member of Bitcoin Magazine Live in this when this happened, but I was furious and demanded that we discuss the story, which we did. And I was really grateful for the chance for us to do this. But this story has already happened in the United States to the director of the Black Panther, Ryan Coogler, when he went to a bank in Atlanta and was asking to withdraw from his own bank account $12,000, and they called the cops on him. I mean, that's like a whole separate thing, and it was more to do with the fact that this was a black man. They claimed he was being sketchy. It's like, I'm sorry, but that was like separate to it. There are racial undertones in that incident, but at its core, a man was denied withdrawing his own money. He showed his own ID to get his money, and they still called the cops on him in this country.
See, I think the mistake that he made is he still had his pants on. People fear what they don't understand, and when they don't understand things, it kind of like breaks their brain. They'll just go with it. Yeah, that's my take on that. All joking aside, it's fucked up. We should have access to our money when we want it by Bitcoin. Let's go to the next story.
Okay, this one, honestly, it's more crypto related, but it just made me laugh so hard that I have to share this story with you. So
when you said crypto, I died a little bit inside.
I know
a
hacker,
and I started lactating. Go ahead.
So a story came out that a hacker and a group of investors essentially stole $200 million from crypto firm Nomad over the course of a few hours last week. So what really happened is what's hysterical to me. This hacker found a code comment in Nomad's audit report and explained how the Nomad bridge could be exploited. Essentially, this guy rerouted payments and sent them to his own wallet. But the hacker didn't just stop there. He kind of just like shared like, hey, like this is possible to be done. So a bunch of random investors went and also just copied his code, created it, and then changed the wallet address to their own personal wallets. So in a $200 million essentially robbery of Nomad crypto, $190 million of that was done by these other copycat hackers, not the original hacker. Feels like a little Robin Hoodie. Kind of love it. Fuck crypto. You know the drill.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of similar to what happened with the DAO hack back in the day, but yeah, these systems are often very, very sloppily implemented. One of the things that is so amazing about Bitcoin is that Bitcoin Core is one of the most heavily audited pieces of code in history, and incredibly brilliant cryptographers, software engineers, economists go through and review and deeply understand what's going on and make sure that Bitcoin Core is as secure as possible. And things almost never slip through. And Bitcoin has an incredibly, incredibly high uptime. We gave the stat off sometime last week. It's like 99.9995% uptime. More running for longer than basically anything else that's out there. And these other systems are whipped together rapidly. They are not very well peer reviewed because ultimately they are designed to do a very different thing. They are not designed to be sound money. They are designed to be a speculative investment that people can pump and dump. Even though they will never say that, right? They're, oh no, this is all about utility and solving the world's problems and saving Christmas and also the polar bears and not clubbing baby seals and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, these are systems that are designed to sound like they do a lot of cool stuff, and mostly 99.9% of the time, they're just investment vehicles. So yeah, this slipped through. There was a comment in a publicly available document. Somebody saw it and took advantage of it. Yeah, I think more power to them. That's what you get.
Honestly, I low-key hope they get away with it. Shall we do the next one?
Absolutely.
All right. So, head of the evil empire, Steve Cohen, has apparently been secretly setting up a crypto fund. This is an exclusive story out of Blockworks. You may be asking, who the fuck is Steve Cohen? Well, Steve Cohen is the owner of the New York Mets, and you may better know him or recall him as being on the wrong side of the meme stock short squeezes in 2021. So the guy who doesn't really understand how retail investors trade in these truly worthless stocks wants to go into the truly worthless crypto space and thinks that he knows more than the retail investors. To be quite honest, I hope Steve Cohen goes fucking broke. And I'm a Red Sox fan, like low key root for the Mets in New York, but yeah, that's my take on this. I would love to see Steve Cohen just collapse so miserably as he has slowly but surely been falling apart.
So what about this was secret though? And how did it get exposed? Do we know that?
So the reason it's secret is we have no confirmed sources. Blockworks is the only one reporting on this story, and they wouldn't share their source to protect them. So that's why we are all saying this is secretly being done, because Steve Cohen is going sort of behind closed doors to make this happen, rather than like coming out and saying like, I want to start a crypto fund. I want to get invested in crypto. I want exposure in crypto. He's not doing any of that. He's just like, let's go get some money together and just go throw it in the crypto markets. Let's see how we can fuck up the crypto markets the way we fucked up the stock markets. That's the way I read this.
Man, I'm just skimming through this story. It's a great quote I just want to read. Even Citadel's Ken Griffin, long a skeptic who last fall dubbed cryptocurrency a jihadist call against the US dollar, has reversed course, acknowledging digital assets are here to stay. What a fucking loser.
Like, yeah. So the man like truly is in charge of the evil empire, or like maybe not in charge. Maybe that gives him too much credit.
Yeah, it gives him way too much credit.
Way too much credit. But like, he's definitely on the bad guys team, guys. So that's all I'm going to say.
Team bad guy?
Team bad guy.
Got it. All right, let's go to the next story.
Let's do it.
What we got?
So down in Argentina, they just raised rates about 9.5% after getting their most recent annual inflation report. And I don't mean to laugh, because their inflation came in at 71%. This is scary times. My heart goes out to the people in Argentina who are dealing with inflation and rates that are truly unfathomable for those of us in America right now. Just a quick refresher and reminder. The IMF did give Argentina a loan earlier this year, and one of the contingencies of that loan was that Argentina would not adopt Bitcoin or crypto. Yeah,
what the fuck is wrong with these people?
I mean, they just had them by the balls. They held Argentina by the balls and were like, if you want to survive in our world, this is what you have to do. And unfortunately, I don't think the leadership of Argentina has the courage to jump out over the ledge and see what's beyond them. I think there's another thing that is going to be really scary, and we're going to slowly see this pick up. Historically speaking, never seen inflation get combated with interest rates that come in below the inflation rate. So
Oh,
actually, when you hear the Fed talk about we're going to fight inflation, historically speaking, the way you fight inflation is by getting the interest rates higher than inflation. So this back and forth that we could be bearing witness to here in America, and we're speculating a little bit. I don't know for certain what the Fed's plan is. If I did, oh man, I would just be living in Las Vegas making bets every day. But if the Fed does do this, hey, we're going to pause, we're going to loosen and then tighten and loosen, all that, it's not going to work. We're just going to get whipsawed back and forth until everything breaks. The other solution is force your hand, put the Fed fund rate above the inflation rate and like really drive inflation lower. They're trying to sort of teeter and slowly creep up. There's something that I read this morning that I just want to highlight and point out because a lot of people are calling for peak inflation, and we could have seen peak inflation. We could have, but we could also have not. And we could very well see a period of time, no different than the 70s, where you had 5 periods of inflation readings come in consecutively lower, only for inflation to then rip shortly after that. So we in America are not out of the woods yet. Much of the rest of the world is not out of the woods. If anything, like their time is, the bell is ringing for some of these other countries. It's going to get a lot uglier. You think it's crazy to see a man in a bank trying to get his own money? What happens when people are fighting each other for the last loaf of bread? It's going to get really bad before it gets any better. Not to be the doomsday guy, but
yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with you at all. And I think, again, it goes back to we have grown up in a very, very privileged position in the United States, which is that we produce, we manufacture, we print the world's reserve currency. And so it's really, really hard. I know that we have many audience members who are from other parts of the world, who are living in other parts of the world. But at least for Q and I, it's, even as I'm saying these things, it's hard for me to kind of break my own mental model and imagine truly the repercussions of going into a consistently higher and higher period of inflation. And to your point, Q, I don't think that inflation is going to go down or get better. I think we are very, very firmly in a we're in the cart on the rails in the mine, and we're headed towards the place where the tracks are exploded and we're going to go off the edge. This is a very tortured metaphor, but you get the idea. You also left out the most interesting part of the story about Argentina, which is that they hiked the interest rates by 9.5%, bringing the total rate to 69%, which is an important number. It's actually 69.5, but
is that your favorite number?
It's one of them for sure. Yeah, we're headed to I guess, I mean, I don't want to sound like a doomsday person, but doomsday prophet, doomsayer. But yeah, we're headed to dark times. And hopefully, I certainly believe that Bitcoin creates a very, very important life raft for everyone in the world. And that's one of the reasons that we spend so much time talking about it here. And, work at Bitcoin Magazine, where we're focused on educating people about how important Bitcoin is. But broaden your horizons. Bitcoin is about freedom from financial tyranny. And there's a lot of really, really compelling and important work that's being done in the space. Alex Gladstein and the work that the Human Rights Foundation is doing is there's a lot of great stuff out there. So check it out if you haven't already.
Also want to give a shout out. I've been going down the Jen Urso rabbit hole on Twitter, checking out her podcast episode with Peter McCormick. Jen, if you are watching, you are going to get a DM from us very soon to please join us on this show. So also someone worth just hearing that perspective of what they want to do and how Bitcoin can help people that we don't even consider need help because we never experienced that way of life. Shall we go to the final story?
Let's do it. Tornado Cash.
It just keeps on tornadoing more and more. But this morning, the Dutch authorities arrested a suspected developer of Tornado Cash.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just laughing because tornadoing more and more. I like that in this episode we're just using the weirdest analogies, metaphors, I can never similes, whatever it is. I immediately had a vision from the movie Twister, you know, where they're driving and there's like a cow, like. Rah. Anyway, all joking aside, this is super fucked. Not only is the whole, as we talked about yesterday, there is a precedent being set here where a piece of code has been added to the U.S. sanctions list. That's the first time that's ever happened, and it is patently absurd. This goes back to the encryption wars, and when the Clinton administration was trying to put, I forget what it was called, but there was a computer chip that they wanted to put in all TVs, and that kind of spiraled into this much larger issue of, is code free speech? And it was determined that yes, it is. And so this is a huge blow against that. The claim being made is that Tornado Cash, which is an Ethereum-based, kind of coin joining protocol, which, aside from Ethereum being just an absolute shit show for any number of reasons, which we've talked about ad nauseum here, there were some interesting technological aspects to the Tornado Cash system, and it was, as I understand it, fairly well implemented, although it did require used more centralized systems, which than the CoinJoin implementations in Bitcoin. But all that aside, they went after them. They went after Tornado Cash because the claim was that it was being used to avoid financial restrictions that they were trying to place on people because they were bad people who were using it to avoid sanctions. So this is really, really disturbing. And the new update in this story is that I believe it is one of the maintainers, the developer, was arrested in Amsterdam. It was either late yesterday or early today. And it's just a bad scene. Someone who wrote code that is then open source and being used by people who are just trying to protect their privacy is getting arrested for this thing that he has put out there that has already been determined to be free speech by existing laws. It's a very dark precedent because we have, similar systems in Bitcoin, and the question then becomes, what's stopping them from going after the developers who have created those protocols as well? And we really need to rally and fight this kind of behavior because it is totally unjustified, totally unacceptable, and it is an attack on our privacy and our freedoms.
Absolutely. And I do want to highlight, it is believed the programmer is Alexei Pertsev. His wife did confirm last night that he was taken by authorities. Look, I am a very, very big believer that what you believe and say, your values, they have to also matter to the people you don't agree with, the people who do things that you don't like, because otherwise those aren't real values. That is just your perspective and your sort of bias. So I urge you to do some soul searching. If you continue to roll your eyes hearing this Tornado Cash story, this is bigger than Ethereum. This is the groundwork for a potential attack on Bitcoin. With that, let's say our 2 cents, which is press that subscribe button right down there, guys. Do it. If you're not subscribed, press the button. If you are, we love and appreciate you. As always, use promo code BMLive to get 10% off of your tickets to Bitcoin Amsterdam. We want to see you in Amsterdam. Do it. The only way P and I can go is if we sell enough tickets with that promo code. I'm not even kidding about that. Like, we need to triple the next closest so that both of us get sent. Otherwise, we're going to have to duel to the death, and the last one standing will go to Amsterdam.
That is how it's going to work.
And of course, get your copy of the print magazine. Again, use promo code BMLive to get 10% off of the individual magazine or a whole year subscription of the quarterly print mag.
I'm not going to say that there is a picture hidden somewhere as an Easter egg of a cloaca in that edition of the magazine, but I am going to strongly imply it. On that note, the premiere for the show we were just speaking about, the show by Pleb Music that we had in, focused on surviving in Amsterdam for 48 hours with only Bitcoin, is live right now. So we're going to kill this stream so y'all can hop over and view that instead. Links are on Twitter. It is in the Bitcoin Magazine YouTube list. Go check it out. It's awesome. We're going to jump over and watch the premiere with everyone else. Have an amazing day. Have an amazing weekend. We will see you same time, same place on Monday. Until then, peace.